So good evening, everybody. This is the hustings for Beeston and Holbeck and Cornley Hall. It's hosted by South Leeds Life, which is the local community newspaper. I'm Christine Smart. I'm the chair for South Leeds Life. In the room with us is Jeremy, who is the editor, Sally and Linda, who are also board members. We are interviewing 5 people tonight. If the candidates can give us a wave, please. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So we're going to ask you all the same questions that were sent in by people in your area and other areas. All of them should be relevant to you. If you feel that's not the case, just say so. We have a chat function at the bottom where people who are watching can send in a question. We ask that you make the question relevant to all of the candidates, so no real party specific ones, so that we can keep everything fair. Is that okay with the candidates?
Yep.
Perfect. So I'm going to start the first question, and I'm going to come firstly to Matt. So Matt, you've got 1 minute to tell us about your party and anything you'd like to say to introduce yourself.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Christine. So hello, everybody. My name is Matt Rogan. I'm your Green Party candidate for Beeston and Holbeck. And first of all, thank you everyone at South Leeds Life for organising this, and thanks to everybody who's attending or watching afterwards. So we've got many challenges and struggles in our area, but we've also got a strong community that we should all be proud of. And myself and your local Green Party here in Beeston and Holbeck have been here for you year round, listening to and working with you as local people for change. And we've been making waves in our sister ward. We've got a Green councillor, Ed Carlisle, making a difference at Hunslet and Riverside. And at this election, you have the opportunity to have that difference here. I live and volunteer locally with community projects, including litter picking, helping at Beeston Festival, going to forums, listening events, and I'm a committed campaigner of many years with successful campaigns under my belt, including saving libraries, and more recently, I've been speaking up about public transport, planning battles and environmental issues, as well as the big issues in our community, such as environmentally unfriendly plastic grass, noise pollution around Ellen Road, air pollution from the M621 and tree loss. So a vote for me on May the 2nd will really help both myself and your local Greens to develop our work in Beeston and Holbeck, and with your support, we can really take it up a gear and deliver. So thank you very much, and I look forward to all the questions this evening.
Thank you, Matt. I'll go next to Louis, please.
Hi, I'm Louis. I'm the candidate for the Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition, which is a coalition of smaller parties and trade unions that have come together to put a political front forward to fight back against the ongoing Labour council that we've got here in Leeds. So we're committed to stopping cuts. Our tagline is Tusk against cuts, because when people talk about politics and issues affecting our area, everyone can make promises, but we can't do that because we just don't have the money in local government. So our commitment is to stopping all cuts locally and trying to find the finances, whether it be from central government, borrowing powers, stuff like that, to pay for the services that we all need. Personally, I've been involved in a lot of campaigns and volunteering and stuff as well. Mainly at the moment, we're campaigning around the Little Owls nurseries. The 3 of them are pending closure, with 15 at risk of closure, as well as the campaign to try and save the St Anthony's building in Leeds City Centre.
Thank you, Louis. George, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name's George. I'm the candidate for the Liberal Democrats for the Beeston and Holbeck ward. I just want to say thank you to Leeds South Leeds Life for organising this hustings event, and for everyone who's attended to hear about all the parties and what we're putting forwards. So by voting Liberal Democrat at this election, you have an opportunity to send a message to the Labour Council that you're fed up with what they're doing, and that you want to have a more in-touch councillor. You want to have people who listen to residents year-round, who aren't just sort of beholden to whatever the Labour Council want to do. So use your vote this year to send the message.
Thank you. Sasha, would you like to go next?
Yes, I'm Sasha Watson. I am the SDP candidate for Beeston and Holbeck. Oh, sorry, one second. Sorry, I'm the SDP candidate for Beeston and Holbeck. I live locally with my partner and 3 children. I volunteer. I am involved in local forums and Beeston Festival and things like that. And there's not much else to say.
Thank you, Sasha. Shaf?
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, South Leeds Live, for giving this opportunity to come on live and people can ask us questions. My name is Shaf Ali. Well, actually, my name is Sharafat Ali. People know me as a Shaf, so we just made it short. So Shaf Ali. I live local in Beeston. Been 20 years here with my family. Father of 4 kids. But all kids goes to local schools, and also I'm a volunteer at Hamara Centre, Abu Huraira Mosque, and active member of committee of Beeston Festival. Also attend local Beeston forums and different forums, community events and meetings and etc. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you, Shaf. Some new people have joined the room. So when you come in, you're all muted, just so you know. And any questions you'd like to ask, if you could put them in the chat function at the bottom of the screen. Just to remind everybody, this will be going on YouTube later for you to view. Okay, so we're going to get into the questions now. I'm going to change the view on the screen. So the speaker will fill the screen now. Is that okay with everybody? Or should fill the screen. So question 1 is, what made you want to stand for the party that you are representing? And I will ask that first to Louis.
I decided to stand for Tusk because there's no other party that's shown that they're willing to stand up to government and fight for what people need. You have the Labour Party that's just been pushing through Tory cuts for years. You've got the Tory parties that are doing the cuts. You have the Green Party who, even when they've been elected on a policy of not having any cuts, they still put them through anyway. And the Lib Dems that have gone into coalition governments with the Conservatives, there's no one that's really just saying no to the cuts. Everyone's just pushing them through. So we need someone that'll actually stand up.
Thank you. I'll ask that next to Sasha.
Yeah, so the SDP was set up to challenge the two-party system. And I think that most people have had enough of switching between one and the other party. And their values most aligned with mine, so.
Thank you, Sasha. George.
Yeah, so I originally decided to stand for the Liberal Democrats because I really believe in the philosophy of our party. I believe in deriving our campaigns and deriving our policy direction from what we see and what we hear are the issues when we speak to local people in their communities. I believe in fairness, and I believe in equality, and I believe in empowering people to do the best thing and do whatever it is that they want with their life. And I believe that goes all the way from national government, but also down to local government as well, with local government ensuring that it works with people to deliver the change they want to see in their communities. And that's something I feel that Labour currently really lack on the council. I hope it's something that I can campaign on.
Okay, thank you. Shaf? You'll have to unmute, Shaf, sorry.
Unmute, yeah. I've got the option there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right, Labour Party is the party who believes in equal opportunity. That's the reason I am with the Labour Party. I believe, as my party says, and we believe no matter who you are and what you are and what's your belief, it gives you equal opportunity to everybody. That's the reason with the Labour Party.
Okay, thank you. And Matt?
So the reason I chose the Green Party is because the party, well, clues in the name green, so environmental, but it is so much more than just that. The Green Party is all about fresh thinking, forward ideas to solve the problems that we face in our communities. At the moment in politics, we've got 2 big parties dominating, even here in Leeds, in South Leeds even. Over the last 2 years, we've seen the political makeup change with new councillors from other parties challenging that one-party straitjacket almost. So for me, the Green Party, it's all about big thinking, fresh ideas, and doing politics differently.
Okay, brilliant. Matt, do you want to stay there? I'll take you first this time. What would our candidates do to prevent the rubber crumb turf from being used at the Matthew Murray site?
Okay, so this is something I actually have been working on in the ward. So the rubber crumb being used is at the Holbeck Sports Hub, and basically it's environmentally unfriendly. It's a bad choice for the pitches that they want to put in. And I've been sort of talking with the people at Leeds City Council, with the planning and sort of their opinions and their approaches on it. There are suitable alternatives, and funnily enough, National Green Party, I was communicating with them the other day, and they met with someone from Sports England and other bodies, and they've suggested various suitable alternatives instead of something that is environmentally unfriendly. Really, with the Sports Hub, though, I think the big picture really is these pitches are one part of a bigger scheme, which is a sports hub that's going to have a doctor's surgery, a kids' play park, I believe. It's a good idea. And really, we shouldn't be taking these things as black and white of it's entirely bad because of the plastic pitches, or it's entirely good because it's going to provide these things. We need to be thinking less black and white, but more how can we think about everything with it. And I did actually request that it, with my Green Party team here in Leeds, we were pushing for a planning panel, and to my knowledge, we're still waiting on an answer on that. Originally, it wasn't requested because I think they want to just get the project through, get it sorted. But I believe we should be able to challenge and scrutinise the decisions that are being made for the community, because eventually, if we get to some time down the line and these problems arise and we think, well, why were they there in the first place? Where was the challenge to this? Planning panel's the place to do that. So I have been working on the rubber crumb issue and plastic pitches, and I will continue to do so.
Thank you, Matt. Sasha, would you like to go next? So just to remind you, what would candidates do to ensure this? What would the candidates do to prevent rubber crumb turf from being used at Matthew Murray site for Sasha?
Yeah, so ultimately that'd be down to the Labour Party, wouldn't it? Because they're in power. There was a consultation, and one of the issues around this is they've put out consultations, but not very many people engage. So there was a consultation, more people put in positive comments than negative comments. And I think that when there are issues like this, there needs to be a bigger push for people to engage. Now, if it was down to me personally, I would have gone for an alternative like cork or whatever else there is out there. Obviously the council should be sticking to the law as well.
Yeah, thank you, Sasha. George, same question to you.
Yeah, okay, so I can clearly see why this is an issue that people feel very passionately about. Of course, like we all care very deeply about the environment, and plastic pollution is a very serious issue. I myself worked on a project previously in a job where we was working to stop microplastic pollution from washing of garments, and microplastics really do cause a serious impact on the environment, especially the marine environment. So it's clearly something that we need to consider carefully when we're making this kind of decision. And I think it's really down to the council to ensure that such controversial decisions do go through the proper planning process, and we can make sure that we can object at all these stages. But also that's the councillor's job to ensure that people are engaged with the process, that they don't just see it as this thing that happens and then they have to sort of, put up with whatever the results are, that they have to know that the consultation is happening. They have to believe that actually if they take part in the consultation, if they make their view heard, then someone's going to listen to them and someone's going to take action on the back of that. In terms of what I would do, I would work with local residents to ensure that the council had heard their concerns. I would, take part in the consultation process and, ensure that the residents, at least had their voice heard. The council may go ahead for their decision anyway, and that often is not the final say of the councillors that we've seen in wards across the city, where the council just push through projects even though local councillors are objecting to it. What we want to make sure as Liberal Democrats is to ensure that local residents' views are not ignored in these processes.
Okay, thank you. Louis? Sorry, just unmute, Louis.
Sorry, I'm on the phone. Yeah, I think everyone's pretty much covered it. It's the main thing is the consultation process. I've never met a councillor or an MP or anyone from Leeds City Council unless I've gone to them. And I think that the council needs to play a more proactive role in going out to residents, finding out what they think. There's tons of alternatives out there that they could use instead. And people really need to know why the decision's been made to use this one over other ones. If it's a financial thing, people should have the opportunity to push back against that. If it's just an arbitrary decision, then again, people need to have the power to be able to say no. And the Leeds City Council should take a more active role in getting people's opinions rather than just holding a consultation and people having to go to them to have their say.
Okay, thank you, Louis. Shaf? You have to unmute. Thanks. Oh, hang on, Shaf. You need to unmute. Sorry. So I'm just going to pause. So when we're recording like this, because the screen changes to whoever's making the most noise, I'm going to mute you when you come off it so that it doesn't interrupt who's speaking. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah, sorry, because I keep, yeah. Okay, perfect. Go on, Shaf.
Right. I'm on unmute now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. I think I would work with the planning department officers and also with my colleagues. I think overall, this project is really good, especially it's a quite big complex. And especially, the pitches, they're quite friendly, kids friendly. They don't have to play with, stud shoes and this, that. So, yeah, I think overall, I would work with the planning department and officers and with colleagues to work on this one, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Louis, I'm going to take you first, please. And the question is, what are your top 3 priorities for your area?
I think securing funding is the main one. So the government has taken £100 million-ish per year for the last handful of years from the budget. So working with everyone else in the council to put back that funding, make sure it's in place. Second one, roads. When I've been out and talking to people, a lot of people are complaining about the potholes, state of the roads, and the fact that it's damaging cars. I think a couple of people said that they've had claims put in against the council and won because the roads are so bad. So I think securing that funding is the first step. Using that funding properly to put the roads back is the next one. And the third one is just having suitable, I say playgrounds, but activities for young people. There's a lot of antisocial behaviour, and the main thing is that there's nothing for young people to do, and that's because when the cuts came in, the first thing that went were the arts and the youth activities. So restoring that back, the fields is a good start to that, but we need to get more stuff for young people to get them off streets and back to just playing football like kids like we did when we were young.
Thank you, Louis. Shaf, same question to you.
It keeps getting muted, I don't know why. Right, my top 3 priorities would be, first of all, obviously, protecting children and families. That's what I believe, and that's the Labour working on this one as well. And also, the second one, carbon neutral 2023, and the third one, pride in better homes. They are the 3 top priorities in my list.
Okay, thank you. Matt, what are your top 3?
So my first priority is antisocial behaviour. So we've got many instances in our ward. We've got quad bikes, we've got drug dealing, that's just to name 2. And really, you can also comment there that a lack of police presence is a reason that it's becoming so prevalent. But there's another conversation to be had there with 14 years of austerity from the Tories. But I believe in, like I said, I believe in broad thinking, and we really need to think, how are we going to tackle antisocial behaviour, not just through more police on the streets, but societal and attitude changes. We need to build dialogue and trust with the police, of course. I'm glad that we've got PCSOs attending forums like Beeston Forum. And yeah, they depend on resident input, but as councillors, we need to really be thinking beyond that as well. And like we said, societal changes, we've got youth groups, we've got brilliant projects. Let's get kids involved in them so that they're on the right path. And yeah, so that's antisocial behaviour. Second of all, I want to focus on waste, litter and fly tipping. I see so much on social media about waste, fly tipping. It's a state. And just today, residents on the Marleys raised that there was fly tipping and they had to report it, they had to get it collected. In our parks and green spaces, we're seeing needles being left about. There are kids playing in that park. It needs to be sorted. So obviously something needs to change. And I'm a proud litter picker. I've been working with the Beeston Womblers, Better Beeston, and even doing litter picks myself down in Holbeck Moor. So there's lots of great stuff going on there. And even with waste on wrong one. So on waste with alternate weekly bin collections, there's also issues coming around from there. So really, we need to be looking at waste as an issue and figuring out how do we really tackle, using broad thinking, the issues that residents are facing. And finally, my third priority, I think, is just community engagement. As a councillor, I'd just love to be using my platform at the heart of the community that I'm a part of, working with everyone in the ward to get things done. We've got loads of brilliant community groups, charities and projects in the area. I want to use that platform to be present within the community, like us as Greens have been for the last many years, and just be visible, present and friendly to engage with the community.
Thank you. George, same question to you.
Yeah, okay, so my top 3 priorities, if I was to get elected, I think the first one is tackling crime in our area. Crime is a really big issue because it affects people in a whole multitude of ways. And it's not one of those problems that has a single thing that you can solve to, prevent it and solve everything, because we have to work on prevention, we have to work on the investigation, and we have to work on supporting victims after they've been a victim of crime. I recently got mugged over on Wortley Recreation Ground, and the police took 4 hours to respond. They took 4 hours to come and visit me in my own home. I only phoned them 15 minutes after it had actually happened, and yet it then took them 4 hours to actually send someone around and talk to me about what had happened. And that's just unacceptable. And we do need more funding and more investment in the police. However, there isn't a whole load of money coming. If you look at any of the parties' manifestos, you can see that there isn't going to be a major amount of investment into local councils, and there isn't going to be a major amount of investment into policing. I'm sure we can all say, oh, well, we would do, recruit this many thousand more police officers, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be what's needed to ensure everyone can have, a police officer available within 10 minutes or so. But that's not enough, really. We can't just say, well, we can't do anything, because we have to ensure we use the police who we do have access to as efficiently as possible. So the other 2 priorities is building more houses. Like, fundamentally, we have a housing crisis and we need more houses. The only way to bring down the cost of accommodation, is to just build more houses. Like, if you have more housing available, the price of housing will come down. So we need to build more houses, and that's pretty simple. And then the other one is net zero. Like, it is, to be honest, an existential crisis, the whole climate crisis. And so it is something that we need to be focusing on, and we need to ensure that we have a resolute plan to solve, both in the immediate term to do what we can, and in the long term to have long-term solutions to the problem.
Okay, thank you, George. Sasha, same question to you.
Yeah, so I wish there was only 3 things. There was more than 3 things that I could choose. Crime isn't really the job of councillors, but there are things that you can. My first thing is crime. It's not really the job of councillors, but there are things that you can do to prevent it, and things that you can not do to make it worse. For example, on Crossflats Park, the barriers were opened without looking at any other solutions. The bike barriers were opened, which has led to an increase in bikes going up and down the park. Secondly, fly tipping. The bin collection changes haven't helped with that. I've been walking around today seeing bin bags with orange stickers on them. That's not acceptable. So I would. The thing with the bins thing is, they, instead of increasing the green bin collections and reducing the black bins, they just reduced the black bins, and so people have had to order extra green bins, which is just, on Crossflats Park, on Crossflats in particular, there isn't much space on the streets, in the gardens, and so it looks like a wasteland when you've got all these bins scattered around the streets. And thirdly, I would say, as I said before, more engagement, more advertisement of consultations, and also I would like to see a place where you can see all the consultations together, so an easy access place on the Leeds City Council website where everything is together, rather than it just being a handful of people on Facebook sharing things and people maybe missing them and things like that. So
Lovely. Right, Sasha, you just stay there and I'll direct this one at you first. So this question that was sent in. So what will candidates do to ensure the safety of road users and pedestrians from courier cyclists and the way they operate their electric bikes?
well, I think that's more of a police engagement thing. I think I'd encourage people, if there are issues, to report it to the police if people are riding the bikes dangerously. And if it's a big issue, then I would look to cooperating with the police.
Thank you. George, same question to you. What will candidates do to ensure the safety of road users and pedestrians from courier cyclists and the way they operate their electric bikes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can totally see why this is an issue for people. I'm sure we've all been walking along the pavement, someone will whiz straight past you going ridiculously fast, and you're sort of like, how can that not be a motorbike? You know, that's going, 15 miles an hour would appear, but they're even faster. And then you're just sort of there and like, there must be a better way that we can do this. And there are lots of things that we can do. So you could work more with the companies who are operating these services, which of course can be quite difficult as they were quite abstract and large. So Uber, for instance, how on earth do you get hold of them? But this isn't just an issue that Leeds is facing. This is an issue that is faced by councils all over the country. So I would definitely look to work with Liberal Democrat colleagues to raise this as an issue with our MPs who can then raise it in Parliament to actually say, well, we need to make sure that the companies understand that they need to provide proper training to people who are doing this to understand, what is a reasonable use of the public highways. There are also specific things that I do think we could do in our area. So if there are specific issues that we have or specific areas that are an issue, then we could look at changing the road layout to better enable people who are using cycle. Like if they have maybe a cycleway, then people who are riding on a bike would be able to then use that. Of course, we can't condone people who are knocking people over when they're walking on pavement. And so we need to ensure that we have enough policing resources and we have enough PCSO resource to investigate these kinds of crimes. And I would also investigate the possibility of implementing a public space protection order, which can be used to mitigate this kind of antisocial behaviour in a specific area and give the police more powers to tackle it.
Thank you, George. Shaf, same question to you. And you're muted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's brilliant. But basically, it is quite a big issue, to be honest with you, especially when you go to city centre. There's loads of takeaways, restaurants there, and delivery company, delivery people. They usually do this electric scooter. That's what they use. As far as I know, the Labour is working quite closely with the police, and especially we're pushing the new legislation to enforce this matter with the police, and so we can it can work on this one. Yeah, I think I would work with closely to police, and also we need to engage youth clubs, let the new generation know how dangerous they are, and also work with the schools as well. I think that's the best idea, to work with the schools and youth clubs to educate people, and especially kids, and also work with the police. That's the best way to deal with this matter at the moment.
Thank you. Matt?
So I think with this issue of electric bikes and their usage, as other candidates have said so far, this is very much one where we need to be working closely with all parties involved. So, for example, with the companies that their workers are using the electric bikes to make the deliveries. We need to be working with those at the council and the police to make sure we've got relevant legislations, relevant powers in place for those who may be dangerously cycling. One thing I think would be interesting is I've noticed that in our area in South Leeds, most of the couriers use the cycle lanes that we've got. Again, cycle lanes, entirely different conversation, possibly for later. But it'd be good to address, okay, so we've got lots of people using electric bikes in the area. Can we encourage them to use the facilities that are in place already? Can we encourage them to use bike paths that are already in the roads? And it's very much a case of, you know, let's communicate, let's collaborate about this. Let's even, if residents have ideas for better solutions, let's get those minds together to figure out what the best way to sort it is, because it is an issue. I've seen it myself. And we really need to be thinking, okay, we've got an issue with these electric bikes. It's dangerous. How are we going to collaboratively work towards a solution?
Thank you, Matt. Louis, same question to you, please.
So I think the biggest issue is that a lot of these couriers are individuals that don't actually work for Uber Eats or Deliveroo. They're contractors. So that if, you know, one of them crashes into your car and scratches it up and you contact Deliveroo to say, give me money because you've damaged my vehicle, they'll say, no, it's an independent contractor. It's nothing to do with us. So I think just off the top of my head, working with trade unions to work with the drivers to get full employment rights, whether that's just within Leeds or nationally, so that if a delivery driver causes damage, hits someone, hurts someone, that not only they're accountable, but the companies are accountable as well, which will then force the companies to do the training, do the, you know, the proactive part of it for their drivers, because currently they're not responsible, they don't really care. But if we, you know, get the workers together, get them actually employed, we can force them to care.
All right, thank you, Louis. I'm going to take Shaf, please. Some of you have touched on this question already, but if you already have done, can you just expand? So can candidates do something about the disrepair of local footpaths and roads?
Local footpaths and potholes, yeah, is a big issue at the moment. Even though I'm not elected yet, but still got a few complaints. I think mainly we need to see that, as everybody know, all the people on this platform today, they all know budget cutting is the big issue at the moment. We're struggling big time. We need to prioritize what we actually doing. We need to keep the services for over a main priority service, like protecting children and families and vulnerable citizens, or we're going to repair the roads and footpaths. As far as now, I'm sure we all know the footpaths, they've been updated compared to before. They worked a lot on that one since they put the cycle line. I think Leeds City Council, or I would say Labour, they played quite clever on that one. Putting the cycle lines, the main purpose was there. They also done pedestrian crossing, and they updated pedestrian crossing as well as footpaths. But still, I think we're working on it. And yeah, the main thing is the budget. So we need more funds. Sometime, obviously, the main government, the central government send the funds just for the specific projects. So we have to use that. But main thing is, yeah, it is a big issue at the moment, but also everybody needs to understand that the budget is the issue as well. So we need to work on that. So definitely, I think as far as I know, I've read the other day on the email as well. There's some schemes out there. I think next few weeks they start start repairing roads and potholes and all these footpaths.
Okay, thank you, Shaf. Matt?
So yeah, this is an issue that isn't just within Beeston and Holbeck, it's affecting many other areas and parts of Leeds as well. For example, I know over in Hunslet and Riverside, there's one big road out in Hunslet, the Oval, and that's just in disrepair. So my understanding is that there is a sort of priority list for fixing these. And indeed, there is a big backlog for pothole fixing and roads and pathways at the moment. And yes, one of the issues is that the budget there have to be cuts, and sadly we've got to focus on the priorities. However, this is an issue with such a big backlog that needs to be addressed, because as we sort of touched in the last question, it's dangerous to be out on roads with potholes. So really what we need to be thinking about is how are we going to address this using the budget that we do have. and where cuts have been made, can we make them to the right places, or not rather the right places, because I don't think it's necessarily right to say we've got to cut something, but enough so that it's not residents and drivers in the roads who are having to feel the pinch and feel the cuts physically from them. But yes, it's one that I think, again, budget's an issue, but I think it's how we approach that. Indeed. And yes, the backlog is big, and it'd be really good to try and get to that backlog. And I think we need to definitely start thinking about that, because if the roads continue to get into disrepair, it will just become even more dangerous.
Thank you, Matt. Sasha?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are places that the council can make cuts, and they do have reserves. There are, I think it's 24 people earning over £100,000 in council. And so until they reduce those wages, I don't buy into the austerity thing. Yeah.
Thanks, Sasha. Louis?
Yeah, like Shaf said, it comes down to funding. But I don't really think it's a good enough excuse when there's reserve money, there's borrowing powers, like Sasha said, there's people on £100,000 a year. When there's potholes that are dangerous, that are causing damage to vehicles, people that swerve around them, causing accidents. When I was at work doing IT for a charity up in Belle Isle, there's a pothole right outside there that caused a mother who was taking a wheelchair-bound kid to the charity for counselling. She hit the pothole, it burst the tyre, she hit another car. When roads are that bad, why are we not using budget? It's not good enough to say there's not enough money. Find it and fix it, because it's causing real harm to people.
Thank you, Louis. George?
So potholes are a really interesting problem, because the thing about the pothole is that the earlier you fix it, the cheaper it is to do. If you fix a pothole when it's just a tiny little sliver, a little crack in the road, then it's really quick, it's really cheap, and it's really easy to do. The problem that you have is that if you leave it and if you let it fester, then it can easily turn into something that requires a lot more money. You have to close the road entirely, you have to sort of get a whole crew out there, and it's just more expensive. So yes, we need to tackle the backlog, and yes, we need to fix up all of the old potholes. But what we also need to do is to ensure that people know where they can report potholes in the future, because actually the earlier we have knowledge about where the potholes are, and then the earlier we go and fix those potholes, then means that we won't get into this same problem again in the future.
Thank you. So Matt, I'm going to come to you first with this question. Yeah, it's one that was sent in. So it's how candidates resolve the issue of people parking on paths that force the elderly, disabled and also able-bodied to go onto the road to get around them.
Thanks. So yeah, this issue about parking on paths, I know there's a specific instance that was raised on, I think it's Berkeley Road, where there's a local business, and the way that cars are being parked is just so dangerous. And yeah, so the thing is here with how would we tackle that? So there are many different ways to go about it. One way is if there's a certain business, for instance, that's doing it, maybe it's just a simple conversation of this needs to stop, you are causing an issue. Another way is potentially to look at involvement with PSPOs, with police. But really, with this issue, we need to be looking at, rather than just as a sort of, oh, it's just an issue with parking, this is actually an issue with accessibility. Because there are going to be people who can't use the pavements, so that blocks off the road to them. It's a dangerous issue, because if there's someone on a bike and there isn't enough space, that's dangerous for them. So we really need to be thinking of this issue as, like we said, it's accessibility, it's not just poor parking. But yeah, and like I said, this is the one instance I'm thinking of with Berkeley Road, for example. I'm sure there are many other instances across the ward. But yes, that is what I think we could be doing to sort that.
Thank you. George, same question to you.
Yeah, okay, so the council do have powers, or are able to give powers to the police to tackle this problem. So for instance, in Edinburgh, they've passed a PSPO, so a public space protection order, which allows them to give a £100 fine if someone goes and parks on the pavement. And this is something that the Liberal Democrats in Edinburgh campaigned for and got the council to enact. And this is the sort of thing that we could look to do if it's a serious issue and we can't actually solve it. Now, of course, I'd really rather not take the stick approach. I'd rather that we talk to residents. We are trying to explain the issue around pavement parking and why it's an issue for people, so that they understand actually this is causing a serious issue for people. Because 99% of the time, when I've spoken to people who, you know, are sitting there going, oh, well, I just didn't realise it was a big issue, because you have a similar issue with students in Hyde Park who leave their bins outside of the house. They don't sort of take it back into the inside of the garden bit. And that means that essentially half of the pavement is always taken up by bins. And they just hadn't quite twigged that you'd have someone who's in a wheelchair or someone who's got a pram and therefore can't now get down the pavement. But once you explain it to them, then magically they suddenly start to say, oh, well, actually, I will take that way, because at the end of the day, most people are reasonable. So the council needs to do more work in trying to persuade and explain to people why it is important that they don't pavement park. But if we fail to do so in that campaign message, then there are, of course, legal options that can be pursued to tackle this kind of issue.
Thank you. Shaf, same question to you.
Matt mentioned Barclay Road, but I don't know. I use the road quite regular basis, going up and down, taking kids to school and coming back from school. Also, that's my regular route, but I've never seen anything on actually footpath. But yeah, they are parking both sides. But if it's something specific issue, then I'm not aware of it. Yes, it is big issue. If people parking on footpath, that's a police matter, I think. And if somebody's doing it, if somebody's seeing it, so we need to report to police straight away. And yeah, we got PCSOs regular basis in Beeston area as well. I think it's police matter, just report to police, or if somebody's doing a regular basis, please get in touch with our team or any sitting councillors, and we can look into it.
Okay, thank you. Sasha.
Yeah, so I know this is a particular issues around schools. I see outside my children's school, you know, people parking on corners, on the path. It's not just detrimental to people who are trying to use the paths, but also people who are trying to cross. Generally, when people are doing that, it's quite dangerous. Yeah. I would try to get more parking wardens out and about, and also look at whether there are any areas that would suit double yellow lines. The Barclay Road issue has been an issue for a while, and it's often brought up in local meetings. There are powers that the council can use to stop that, and they aren't currently being used. So that would be a priority to look at why the council aren't using their powers to stop that in that particular instance. But yeah, I agree, it's a big issue.
Thank you, Sasha. Louis, same question to you.
Yeah, I don't think people are parking on pavements intending to, you know, cause disruption and stop people from being use the pavements. It's just they're not thinking about other people, not aware that, you know, it could cause accessibility issues for people. So I think like a public service campaign would do a lot of good in particular areas that are badly affected by it. But I also think that we can't really have traffic wardens out on every corner. We can't have, you know, patrols up and down every single street. But making it a lot easier for people to report, to, you know, take a photo of a car, license plate, everything else, and upload that so that someone can go through rather than having to report it. Someone goes out to check it out. Maybe they're there, maybe they're not, and then getting the fine or whatever. It's all just about making contact with the council easier so that people can report and solve the issues faster.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, I'll go to George first. You ready, George? Police officers attend meetings, go to community buildings and schools, but how will candidates work towards steering more police officers back to walking the beat outside in the communities where it matters?
Yeah, okay, so this is a great question. So, of course, one of the Liberal Democrats' key aims is to work more towards what we call community-led policing, which is where the police work with local communities to identify the issues that matter to them most, and then the police work to tackle those issues. And it's really great to hear that the police are doing lots of work and they're going to these sorts of meetings. Of course, we don't want police time to be taken up solely by attending meetings. That would simply be a drain on their resource. And, I appreciate actually at the end of the day, it is the police's job to go out and do some policing. So I think we need to do two things. One, make sure that we're using the police's time effectively. And so the councillors can be a really great asset in this by working with the police. The councillors can make sure, that local residents are having their voices heard effectively and sort of help, take part in the meetings, and also to ensure that all the relevant points are noted down so that we have some positive benefit out of it and it's not just a pointless exercise. And then the second part is fighting to secure more funding for the police. The Liberal Democrats have submitted an amendment to the Leeds City Council budget every single time for like the past 4 or 5 years now, which would have given funding within the council's budget by, shuffling pots of money about essentially, in order to provide funding for 33 extra PCSOs, which is Police Community Support Officers, which is enough for 1 per ward, which would, it would increase the amount of policing capability available.
Thank you. Sasha, the same question to you, please.
Yeah, so the SDP supported that amendment, and we were disappointed that it wasn't passed. We have, my colleagues in Middleton have been working with Tracy Brabin. Now, policing is mainly the job of the mayor. I think, yeah, I don't know, sorry.
All right, do you want me to come back to you? Yeah, okay. Louis, same question to you, please.
Yeah, it's more of a national issue. Again, you can kind of parroting on about budgets, but if there's not enough money, we can't have more people patrolling the streets. My brother used to be a PCSO, and he says the biggest issue that he had doing his job was the paperwork. So I think there's issues within the West Yorkshire Police that need resolving. But like I said, the mayor has powers to put more PCSOs out on the streets. There's been amendments to budgets to get more out. So it's not that nothing can be done. It's just that for whatever reason, the Labour Council refuses to do anything about it.
Okay, Shaf, I'll come to you next then.
Yeah, it's me, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. As I'm glad everybody knows about the funding and the cuts by central government, but that's one thing clear now, because everybody knows there is a cut there, and that's the reason they can't be, every single service can't be stable as it used to be. Yeah, I think as West Yorkshire Lord Mayor, she recruited, I think, couple of hundred officers. If don't take my words, a couple of hundreds, could be more, could be less. But yeah, we need for recruiting more officers, we need more funding. And again, it comes what we need to put in priority. We need to compromise other services, which is more important, as I said, adult social care and vulnerable citizens, or we need to get more officers. Yes, I believe we need to keep the other services, the more important services first, then the officers. And also, yeah, we're working on it as far as now. And also the West Yorkshire Mayor, she's working quite closely onto this issue as well.
Okay, thank you, Shaf. Matt.
So we've touched on this before, that with the regards to number of PCSOs, there are funding issues. Austerity means that there's little resource to be stretched across large areas. I think at one of the forums I went to, there were PCSOs there, and they said there were, and I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong on this, but 3 PCSOs covering all of South Leeds. So that's effectively 1 PCSO for each ward in here: Beeston Holbeck, Hunslet, Riverside, Middleton. So, and I believe that's around 15,000 people in that area. But again, happy to be corrected on that one. So it's very clear that we don't have enough PCSOs. They're being stretched across. But really what we need to think about in regards to the question about engagement. So yes, they go to meetings, they go to schools, but not all of these meetings are going to be accessible to everyone. Sometimes they're going to be at times so that people who work a lot later won't be able to attend. They may not physically be able to get there. And some people might not even be aware of the meetings or their presence. So we do need to find ways of actually getting engagement with the police and the community out there. But something to think about is that the answer to crime isn't just with policing. We need to look at mid-term, long-term solutions such as community action, youth work, to tackle issues that arise from a lack of policing, and building up, connections, resilience within our communities, so that when we do have a lack of engagement, we can bounce back and work together, share intelligence. And because the thing is, criminals thrive among disconnected communities. So if we have that cohesion, then we can already be making progress on that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Sasha, do you want to add to your answer?
Yeah, I just wanted to say more engagement with police, I think, and more signposting them to particular areas of difficulty.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next question. I will go to Shaf first on this one. Given the financial squeeze on the council, what would you cut from the council budget?
Nothing really. Again, that we need to keep the main services maintained, and we need to, I would say, well, we can't really take anything away. We want to give more and more, but again, budget is the main issue. As I said, housing is quite a big issue. We need more houses and everything. Even though we're working on really hard on that one, we got 1,200 more houses coming, 300 bungalows and flats coming for elderly people, and we are working quite hard on that one. But again, budget is the big issue, which we have to work on that one. So which way we're going first? So yeah, I think budget is the big issue at the moment.
Thank you. Louis, same question to you. What would you cut?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
It's an easy one.
Oh, okay.
That's easy, is it? Yeah.
Perfect. George, same question to you.
Yeah, okay. So I'm sure no one would like to cut any money from any service, but at the end of the day, the council doesn't always spend their money in an efficient manner. So, for instance, I know about an area over in Headingley and Hyde Park where the council went and they spent a whole load of money implementing a low traffic neighbourhood, except it turned out once they'd done so, because they hadn't consulted anyone, they hadn't talked to anyone who was living there at the time, and they hadn't done consultation properly, within a few weeks, these low traffic neighbourhood planter boxes had just been torn over and moved over to the side of the road. Now, that's not a cheap scheme to do. You've got to plan it, you've got to have the meetings, you've got all the time of all the officers involved. And then for essentially the residents to literally drag the boxes to the side of the road and turf them over, so that now soil and wood's left all over the streets because they didn't want them. And that's the kind of waste that actually, that's what we should cut. We should cut down on the inefficiency that you get from the council not properly listening to people and not implementing things in a sensible manner. Another really good example of this is the Leeds 2023 City of Culture, which I think it's fair to say passed the majority of the city by. We know from looking at the statistics about their volunteer data that the system was chronically under-volunteered. They had never had as many as half as many volunteers volunteering for their event as they said that they needed to. So they failed to engage with people enough to have enough volunteers, and they failed to engage with people from across the city. So at the end of the day, they did just go and waste a whole load of money that could have been spent on delivering vital services across the city. So don't cut, use it more efficiently.
Thank you. Sasha, same question to you.
Yeah, I think failure to engage is a massive theme here, isn't it? So firstly, I would cut, as I've already mentioned, executive pay. I think that they should be focusing on things like that before they start to cut essential services, or rather essential that aren't ring fenced. Secondly, vanity projects like the City of Culture thing. as George has just said. And thirdly, councillors' pay. Councillors recently accepted a recommendation to increase their pay. The SDP voted against the proposal to increase the pay. And I think we should start looking at the pay of people in council before we cut services.
Thank you, Sasha. Matt.
Short answer, no, I wouldn't want to cut anything. But when it comes to cuts and having to balance the books for the budget, the fact of the matter is, yes, we're having to tighten our belt with the council. But when it comes to funding, cuts shouldn't punish the community. Mm-hmm. Taking examples of the Little Owls Nursery, which we have one in our ward, and outside of our ward, Crossgates Library and Pudsey Civic Hall. Cuts to these mean that the community has to bear the brunt from these shutting down. And I believe there was one person who described one of the cuts as civil vandalism. So when the decisions come to what do we cut, we need to make sure it's not us as the community who have to bear the brunt of what happens there. And the other issue, which I think we've slightly touched on in Sasha's answer, is tribal one-party dominance when it comes to amendments. So when other parties submit amendments, what we see very often is they get shot down without second thought because it's not part of that party's thought process. What we really need is pluralism in politics, not just one party making all the decisions, but cross-party working to think, okay, well, we don't want to cut the budget, but we've got to make some changes somewhere. So where do we make them so that the people who are at the most disadvantaged, such as library users in Crossgates or even in our ward with Little Owls, they're not having to take on the responsibility of that.
Thank you. So, Matt, I'm going to come to you first with this question. Do you think councillors should be picking up litter? Well,
I myself already pick up litter, as I mentioned before, with the stuff I do with litter picking groups, litter-free Leeds. Really, I think the job of a councillor is to serve the community that you're part of, or serve the people who have put you where you are as their representative. And we could all do with sort of, putting our own efforts into making the community better, which councillors do from within the council chamber. But I strongly believe in being active presence within the community, as I have been already. It shouldn't be a councillor's job to pick up litter, but I do think that councillors who play that part and get their hands dirty, get stuck in, it makes the community a better place, even if it is with litter where it could, arguably be with other times such as meetings. It makes a difference and people notice that difference. So it's sort of a yes and no there, but I think for simplicity we'll say yes.
Thank you. George.
So there are 3 men in case, and they say, oh, thank you that you've come round and asked me if I've got any problems, because actually the council won't come round and they won't fix the toilet that's blocked and is permanently blocked in my council house, and I really need someone to chase them up and fix it because they just won't be listening to me. Or it's the person who's going around and saying, oh, well, actually there's a pothole here and I've reported it several times that no one's listened. And that's one of the jobs of a councillor. The second job of a councillor is to work with community groups to understand their issues. That's going to the litter picking groups, going to the local nursery, so going to any older people's groups that are around as well, go talk to the scout groups to understand what issues they have in the area and what better support they need. Because at the end of the day, Beeston Holbeck has 18,000 people living in it. It would simply be an unfeasible ask to ask any free people to pick all of the litter or to attend every single meeting all of the time. But what they can do is channel what those local community groups have as concerns into the council and can say, actually, I have gone to so they can say that actually as a councillor, they have gone to every single local litter picking group individually and spent one session with them, and they've actually said all of them are having an issue because they don't have enough of those litter picking fingers, or they have an issue acquiring the bags. And that's the kind of issue that they can then feed back to the council and potentially do their third role on, which is actually being a politician and saying, you know what, as a council, you need to take money from this pot and invest it into this pot instead, or we need to petition national government to give us special funding for this. So No, a councillor should. So yes, a councillor should pick up litter so that they can talk to people who pick up litter regularly, so that they can tell the council how they can better support the people who pick up litter regularly.
Thank you. Sasha?
Yeah, I think councillors should do that by choice. I think, as George has just said, it's a good way to engage with the community. I know that a lot of councillors and candidates have been engaging with local litter picking groups, who do a really good job. And so I think that councillors should want to do that, but it shouldn't be like, you know, by law that they have to do that.
Yes. Thank you. Chef?
Yeah, if I say in one word, so no. I think councillors, as my friend earlier said, councillors' job is to deal with the issues and matters. But yeah, as the awareness, we should pick the litter up, but not as a habit, not every day, every week. To show people, yes, we're doing this, we're cleaning the streets. No, that's not our job. I think that's a council's job, and we need to, if you see something there, so you need to report it to council or local councillors. And yeah, as the awareness to show your kids, your new generation, yeah, we need to keep a tidy our area. That's a good, but no, as a full time, I would say no.
Okay, thank you. Louis?
I think that the fact that the litter picking campaigns are everywhere is evidence that the council has failed in its waste management delivery of its service. Realistically, no, we shouldn't have to pick litter. No one should litter in the first place. But I think it's a councillor's responsibility to do whatever they can to help their community, whether it's litter picking or, you know, going around and just talking to someone. Should absolutely do everything they can.
Okay, brilliant. Louis, if you just stay there. Next question is, Leeds roads are getting close to gridlocked. What do you see as a solution?
It's an interesting one. I've seen my journey into Leeds change from 15 minutes to over an hour stuck on Whitehall Road because it's just gridlocked. Part of that is there's a lot of changes that are being made, a lot of roadworks going on, and bus gates being put in without, I think, a proper look into where they're needed. So bus gates have been put in, but the bus services haven't improved. You can catch a bus from pretty much anywhere in Beeston Holbeck into the city centre, but it's then going to get caught in that traffic. So when you're in the city centre, it's great. You can travel anywhere by bus pretty quickly, but getting in there is a huge issue. There's park and ride services that are in place, one down at Ellen Road, but I just don't think they're advertised and utilised enough. So we need to make public transport needs to be better. This tram system that we get promised every couple of years needs to actually materialise, and I think the council should do a better job in sort of proactively trying to encourage people to use public transport rather than their own cars.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Louis. Sasha?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Christine?
I can. So it says Leeds roads are getting close to gridlocked. What is a possible solution or solution?
Yeah, so I think the rollout of cycle lanes has been not done very well. I think that they should have focused on bus lanes instead of cycle lanes, so that more people could get in and out of town easily.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Chef?
Yeah, I think it's not just on these roads. Everywhere is getting busy day by day. To be honest, I usually travel every day from Beeston to Hamley because I work there. Especially Hamley Generator was really busy. Especially just roadworks. They're still there, but to be honest with you, they've done a really good job on it. Now it's nice and smooth. As I said earlier, sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name. He said we need to use the public transport. Yes, I agree with him. We go park and ride in everywhere, all around Leeds. We need to use the public transport and also buses. And also, I think the people they need to get in touch with each other, and if they can use the same card, if they're working in the same area, same office or same place, especially in city centre, or if you work in somewhere close by with each other. So I think you just share your car, and that's a good idea as well. So that we can reduce the traffic.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, George. Same question.
Yes, I think a lot of the issue that's come here is because the Labour Council keeps on insisting on spending all of the money that they have available for an infrastructure project instead of actually saying, no, hang on a moment, we don't need all of this. Because what happens is they say, we have a junction here that we want to improve. They go and bid to the national government and say, look, this is the junction we want to improve. This is why it's dangerous. And this is, the kind of thing we might want to do. And then the national government will say, okay, well, here's your allocated budget for that improvement. Go and produce a plan for that. And so a couple of examples, like there's the Launted roundabout near where my friend Chris lives. And for that one, the Labour Council has been told, well, here's about £10 million worth of budget. And actually, all that needs is a couple of pedestrian crossings and maybe a cycle lane or two. And they've somehow managed to turn this into a £13 million project. And so actually they've just gone and said, well, we'll have to spend the maximum amount of budget that we've been allocated for this, even though they don't actually have to. All they can spend under the budget if under the budget still delivers on their requirements. And we see this time and time again, where the council say apply for money to do up some roads, and then they get a budget to allow them to do that, and then they insist on doing something way over and above what actually needs to be done, just so that they can say, well, we've spent all this money on the project. And it's a bit of a vanity thing, to be honest. It's actually, how much money can we spend on these things? And so I think it's about efficiency in terms of the roadwork improvements that we do actually do. And then the other one is in terms of improving our public transport. Far too often, we've all been there at the bus stop waiting for a bus, and it says, oh, it's going to be here in 5 minutes. And then half an hour later, your bus turns up. The simple matter of the fact is that the buses in Leeds are far too often late because they don't have enough buses and they don't have enough drivers. Despite this, we have insisted on trying to claim that a bus will come to you every 15 minutes, when that is just a flat out lie. It would be a tough decision to make, and I can see why the council have not done it. But if the council turned around and said, sorry, but we can't deliver on the bus timetable that we've got, and so we're going to shut it down, and we're going to turn it down to just a bus every once an hour, but the bus will definitely be there. You can be certain, or near enough certain, that that bus will be there at that time. Because far too often, you just have a situation where the bus just doesn't turn up. And that means no one uses public transport, which means the roads get clogged, which means the public transport gets even worse.
Thank you, George. Matt, same question to you.
Yeah, so Leeds roads and gridlocking. So really, if we want less cars on the road causing gridlocking, we need alternatives. And by alternatives, I don't just mean, well, we can just get public transport, because as George has just touched on, public transport, it is not efficient in Leeds. So I'm glad to see the buses are being franchised, meaning we get public control of them. But in part of the question, I think, Christine, you asked what would the solution be? Well, the thing is, there is no one solution that's going to cover everything. There's no silver bullet that's going to wipe out all our problems. The roads will be clear. Getting around Leeds will be easy. There is no single solution for that. But if we're going to have alternatives, they need to be viable. Because at the moment, if you live in Holbeck, you're relying on buses if you want to get into the city centre. If it doesn't turn up, well, taxi or walk, and I would rather neither of them. Another issue at the moment with transport is, I believe, in Cottingley, there's a lot of uncertainty with the White Rose station. I think they've run out of money for it the last time I checked. So there's a lot of uncertainty for residents with the trains. So what's happening with Cottingley station? Is it going to stay open? When's White Rose going to come in? And then there are already issues with the buses there. So if residents don't have that train station and they're relying on a bus service that just doesn't work, where does that leave them? So we need solutions that actually bring about alternatives, because if we do want to ease up the gridlocking, we need to have other ways of doing it. This isn't sustainable, and that's the other thing we really need to think about, because at the moment, it doesn't work. And the result we're left with is just a constant state of more cars on the road, which in turn leads to more air pollution because there's more cars hanging around. That's making the air quality that's already dreadful in our part of Leeds worse. So we really need to be thinking about how do we solve this, but not just as one, well, a load of cycle lanes will do it, or, well, let's just have a couple more buses run. We need a cohesive way of sorting this out.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to ask the next question first to George. And some of you have already answered this, but again, expand if you would like to. It says, a lot of money has been spent on cycle lanes in recent years. Do you think they are a good investment?
So do you think that cycle lanes on the whole are a good investment, but they have to be cycle lanes with a purpose? All too often, if you're trying to cycle around Leeds, you'll say, oh, well, there's a cycle lane, that'll get me where I need to go. And you get on it, and then a minute later, you're back off the cycle lane. And it's like, hang on a moment, what even was the point in that? What was the point in putting your cycle lane for a space that would take me about 2 minutes to walk at most? And actually, this is the kind of the problem that we have. I've also seen a situation where we have a cycle lane and you're approaching it from a junction. So like there's a T junction here, and then there's a cycle lane on the other side of the T. And then this approaching road here doesn't have a cycle lane on it. But the cycle lane over here is on a curb, and there's no dropped curb for you to then access it from the T junction. So how on earth you're meant to use that cycle lane? Because what you end up with is a stream of cyclists on the cycle lane and a stream of cyclists cycling just alongside the cycle lane because they couldn't get onto it, because clearly nobody at the planning stage sat down and thought, well, actually, how is this going to work in reality? So I agree with putting in cycle lanes. I think that they make our roads safer, and I think they encourage more people to cycle, which in turn improves air quality and reduces traffic and congestion. But they need to be done with purpose and with sort of, an idea of how exactly they're going to link everything up together.
Thank you. Louis, same question to you.
Yeah, so I'm fairly sure the funding for cycle lanes has come from central government, so it's not like it's being spent rather than spending it on services. But the issue is that the council seem to have decided to build cycle lanes and hope that people start using them rather than looking into where they're needed and prioritising cyclist safety. So seeing where the most accidents are happening and seeing where cyclists feel less safe and putting them in there rather than just sticking them where most people go and hoping people use them. Yeah, I think it is a good investment. We do need more cycle lanes, but if they're just there and no one's using them, then what's the point when there's other areas that could do with a cycle lane where there isn't one?
Different. Thank you. Sasha?
Yeah, I'm simply going to say no.
Thank you. Matt?
Cycle lane discourse, lovely. So, a good investment. Well, I would say if it were a good investment, we would be getting bang for our buck. Are we getting that at the moment? That's very debatable. So this is, yes, as we said, this is central government money that's being used on it. It's basically, you've got to use it on cycle lanes or you don't get it. But really, I don't see anyone other than couriers using these cycle lanes. I mean, I use them myself, but there's very low uptake of people using them. So really the question is then, okay, well, how would we encourage people to get bikes on the cycle lanes? Well, we have the barrel bikes, they've been introduced, but the problem is, A, they're very fiddly to use, B, they can be quite expensive, and C, they don't even cover half of our part of Leeds. So there isn't any hubs in Holbeck for them. I don't believe there are any in Cottingley. I think it stops at the end of Town Street in Beeston. So really, this comes back to what I was saying before. If we want to get more people on the cycle lanes, then we need to be encouraging them. But at the moment, the only option is expensive electric bikes that don't even cover half of the ward, or making that capital investment into getting a bike. And again, there's no silver bullet solution for this. We need to be thinking about joined up ways of how can we make the cycle lanes worth their investment. But I'm going to finish this answer to the question with a quote from a lovely gentleman who I spoke to about cycle lanes with, and his words were simply, "Build it and they will come. Well, where are they?"
Thank you, Matt. Shaf, same question to you. Okay, Chef Rosen, or is
Thank
it me?
you.
Oh, there you are.
I think I'll let be interested on this one, as is, everybody know, or most of people know, there is, as it was from central government, that funding. Can you hear me, guys?
Okay, sorry, Chef, we missed the beginning of your answer. Got kind of cut
Can
off.
you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry. As I said, I've already touched earlier on this one. Most of my friends knows it was a central government grant there. So I think, as I said earlier, they played really clever there, and they upgraded pedestrian crossing as well as footpaths. So I think it was really good, and we can't really make everybody and anybody, but yeah, there's options out there so they can use it, and it's environmental friendly as well. And also, you can get to A to B quite quick because cycle lane's there, and it's quite safe as well. It's a very good investment.
Okay, thank you, Chef. If you just stay there while you're working before you think goes down again. How do you plan on engaging with diverse communities?
That's a very good question for me, actually. I am from a minority, and I used to be equality officer in Beeston Holbeck branch. Yeah, it's very important to keep the communities together and keep them engaged and the community. Yeah, I think it's very important, and I worked quite a lot on that one as well. So yeah, it's very important to keep them engaged, all the communities.
Okay, thank you. Sasha, same question to you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so just by engaging with people without thinking about, you know, what characteristics they have, I treat everybody equally, and if there are different groups that serve different purposes, then I'll, you know, I'm happy to get involved with them.
Brilliant, thank you. George, same question to you.
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. I think diversity is really important. It's important that we listen and understand a wide variety of views from communities across the entire ward. It's important because many of the diverse communities that we have in the area will offer a different perspective, and they will have different needs and different things that they require from each council service. So if I was elected, then I would try and engage as much as possible with different communities. I would try and attend lots of different community groups and meeting, and I would always ensure that I was free, or I'd make the best effort possible to be free if somebody invited me to a community event, to ensure that I can meet as wide a variety of people as possible.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Matt, same question to you.
So on diversity and engaging with diverse minority communities. So I've already had many years of working intersectionally with lots of different communities. So whether that's with BAME people, disabled people, I've worked a lot with understanding how do issues link together. And I'm glad we all agree that, you know, we need to be open to different perspectives, open to different experiences. But for me, I've had many years now of understanding what those experiences are like, and I myself come under quite a few minority communities. You know, I have a physical disability, mental, I'm LGBT, and from a working class family. So there are many ways that I faced discrimination and accessibility that really, I think, for me, give me that experience of understanding just what it's like to have a barrier to accessing things. So, for example, with a lot of things that go on in communities with sort of events and engagements, lots of them happen in person. But for myself, I have a physical disability where some days it's very difficult for me to get out and about. So when we talk about engaging with diverse communities, we need to make sure that that engagement fits and applies to everybody. Leeds is incredibly diverse, it's multicultural, it's vibrant, and our communities are too. It's wonderful that we have just such a diverse range of residents living in our ward. But we need to understand how we can overcome barriers that those residents face. I think I touched on it before, but with things like residence forums, not everybody's going to be able to make 7 o'clock on a Wednesday evening to get to a community centre for it. So how else do we engage with them? There are some people who may face hate crime who feel uncomfortable reporting it because of previous bad experiences. How do we as councillors make them feel comfortable with being able to say this happened, and how do they get support? So for me, it's very much playing on the experiences that I have in my own upbringing, in my own life, but also widening that scope to understanding experiences that maybe I don't personally see. For example, when it comes to engaging with diversity and tackling misogyny, that's something I haven't firsthand experienced, but I'm incredibly open to understanding, okay, how do we make Leeds a safer place for women? So there's many different ways of it, but I've had a lot of experience over the years, and I'm always, with my own experiences of it, very open to making sure I'm an accessible and friendly counsellor.
Thank you, Matt. Louis, same question to you.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard living in Beeston not to be like constantly immersed in different, cultures and people from different backgrounds. I think it's like Matt said, it's about having that understanding. It's really difficult to have an understanding if you're not from a particular community. So I think, you've got a diverse you got to like surround yourself with people from all different backgrounds, so that I've not experienced racism, but I know friends and people that have, and listening to them and understanding what they're actually saying, rather than just, as I've experienced from a few councillors when talking about LGBT issues, is just a head nod and a yeah sure, we'll fix it, but actually striving to get to the root cause and understand what the person's truly saying, I think is important.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. I don't know if any of you noticed the chat, so I wondered if this could be answered possibly just with a thumbs up from you. So Hinman has asked, would a language exchange initiative be a feasible way to promote diversity in our communities? Do we think we should have thumbs up on now for that one? Thank you for the question. That was brilliant. Okay, so I've come to the end of the questions that were sent in. So what we're going to do now is give you all a minute to do a sign off and say whatever you'd like to say, to appeal to the voters for next week. So seeing as you're up on the screen, Louis, I'm going to go with you first, if that's okay. So you have a minute.
Yeah. So Tusk councillors have made a lot of promises. We've talked a lot today about budgets. We're the only party that have promised to put zero cuts budgets forwards, make amendments to any budget to make sure that they contain no cuts. And we're also the only party that have a commitment to taking an average worker's wage. So even if you get to the point on the council where you're getting these ridiculous salaries of 100, 150,000, any Trust candidate will only take the average worker's wage from that area, which will help solve a lot of the issues budget-wise. And yeah, I'm looking forward to carrying on campaigning and meeting everyone, and hopefully everyone has a great time, and looking forward to winning, maybe.
Thank you, Louis. I'll come to Sasha next, please.
Yeah, so we have 2 councillors in Middleton Park Ward who are doing an amazing job. They're engaging with residents, they're speaking up when something doesn't look right in council, they are working with other parties, being cooperative. And if you want that to continue and you want a councillor like that, then vote SDP.
Thank you, Sasha. I can't see Shaf anywhere now on my screen. Is he still in here?
Yeah.
You are. There you are. Do you want to go next?
Thank you. I don't know why you can't see me. Yeah, as I said, we got track record. We got our former councillors, Adam, Angela, and current councillors, Councillor Underscoop, Annie, and Gohar. They've been working really hard for the community. So as we got track record, so we work hard for our community. We're there for community. They can approach us anytime. We got surgeries on a regular basis. If you've got any issue, any problem, get in touch with us. We are available on phone call, email, or just come and knock on our door, or make an appointment. We come and see you. So yeah, as I said, we work quite hard for our community. Being a volunteer, I've done well for our community. I've done a lot, whatever I could do. I'll be there for my community if they need me anytime. And yeah, come out 2nd of May and vote for me.
Yeah, brilliant.
you.
Thank you. I'm going to go with Matt next.
Thank you. So first of all, I just want to say again, thank you, South Leeds Life, for hosting this evening. Thank you, everybody, for coming along, engaging. We hope that this has been a very good evening for all of you. So the last thing I want to say is that I have a record both as a campaigner here in our community and a record of many years of activism now. So I'm very proud of it. I know what works, I know what doesn't, but importantly, I know how to bring about the change that our community needs. People in our communities are hungry and they want a fresh change with forward-thinking ideas about how to make our area better. So if what I've said appeals to you, then I hope you can get behind us. We've landed as the Green Party strong, solid second places in the last 2 years, and we're here to stay. We've seen in our neighbouring wards that change from one-party domination is possible. And in our sister ward in Hunslet and Riverside, the Greens have broken through and they have won. So we're second here in Beeston and Holbeck. We're here to stay. And if you're hungry for change, then I hope you can vote for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And George, you get the last spot.
Thank you. Thanks to Christine for hosting this hustings event, and thank you to everyone who's watched either in person or online afterwards till I've been uploaded. If you've got any questions about anything I might have discussed, if you want any more elaboration on the suggestions I made or the points raised, you can send an email to us at info@leedslibdems.org.uk, or you can send a letter to Free Post Leeds Lib Dems, and we'll make sure that we can respond back to you with whatever query it is that you have. Final roundup, why should you vote for me? Well, because I live in the area, and I am passionate about supporting local communities and passionate about empowering people to make the change they want to see in their area. And I'm passionate about building a freer and fairer Leeds for everyone.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, George. So that completes our hustings for tonight for the Beeston and Holbeck ward. I'd just like to remind you that South Leeds Life is a community newspaper, and you can subscribe and sponsor us if you go check out the Facebook page and the website. We'll be super grateful. Good luck to all the candidates, and thank you for attending. We hope everybody has a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.